Hey everybody, I'm Jeff Antoniuk. Welcome to Digging Deeper Jazz. Well, today I want to talk about the Minor Pentatonic Scale. This is for all instruments. Maybe if you are a drummer, you can turn this video off. Everybody else, you need to watch it. This scale is the most ubiquitous scale, the most used scale, the most important scale, probably in human history. And for us jazz players or people playing funk or rock or R&B or country or bluegrass, this is going to be a sound you need to use. Now, a couple videos ago, I did a video on the major pentatonic scale. So this is definitely a companion video to that. The major and the minor pentatonic scale are very, very related. And I'm going to be giving you an example from, some famous tunes that you know, but also a composition of mine, and I can give you a little insight into how I was using the minor pentatonic scale. So let's look at what we're talking about here. Item number 1 on the sheet is the C minor pentatonic scale. All of our examples today will be in C to keep it simple. And here is the sound of this scale. So that's a sound you have heard in all sorts of settings. You can play it in a sort of plaintive kind of way. Coltrane used to use that scale a lot. You can play it in a funky kind of way, everything else. Now, some examples. You know the Duke Ellington song, In a Sentimental Mood. That opening line to In a Sentimental Mood is this minor pentatonic scale. And much of the beginning part of that tune, the A section, is built from minor pentatonic. A song like Cantaloupe Island by Herbie Hancock. This is a song we're actually doing at Jazzwire for the next month or so in the green community. I hope you join us there. Cantaloupe Island, entirely the minor pentatonic scale. Yeah, so you've heard this everywhere. So let's dig into what it is and really talk about how to use it, how to practice it. So very importantly, the recipe for this scale. You can see item number 1, I've written down that relative to a major scale, the minor pentatonic is 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1. So we call it minor pentatonic because it has a minor third in it. That's what makes something major or minor. This has the minor third, and it has a flat 7. So it relates to a lot of minor sort of scales. Now, of course, we see that there are some holes in this scale. There is no second degree. There is no sixth degree. So it's not a linear scale. Now, I said this about the major pentatonic scale too. I don't really think of pentatonic scales as scales. I call them that because that's what everybody else does. But I've also heard a lot of people refer to these as a melodic device. It's really not a scale the way the alphabet is just here's a collection of letters from one to another. This scale, if you play any little bit of it, it begins to sound like a melody. Anything you do. That's why it's such a great scale. It's almost impossible to sound wrong or bad or incoherent with it. And those skips in the scale are the awesome part. That's what makes things that you play with the minor pentatonic scale sound so melodic. Those skips make it not sound like you're just running up and down a scale, just saying letters from the alphabet. It makes it sound like it's more melodic than it actually is. So you may not have the world's greatest sense of melody, but if you play with the pentatonic scale, it's a fantastic, fantastic sound. Now, this scale also does relate to the major pentatonic. The major pentatonic scale, the recipe, and you can see on the previous video, is 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 1. It's entirely different than this scale. So if I play that scale, and now I play minor pentatonic, They're the same notes. So the trick is you have to get the correct pair of scales, right? So I played C minor pentatonic, as you have on the sheet, and E flat major pentatonic. So if you start this scale on an E flat, you get the E flat pentatonic scale. So there are 12 for the 12 keys, 12 minor pentatonics, 12 major pentatonics. And they each have a relationship, E flat major and C minor, that's a pair. F major and D minor, that's a pair. And they're separated by a minor third, if you want to think about it that way. Or you can think about it the other way, they're separated by a sixth. So that relationship. So now, by the way, this is what we're doing at jazzwire.net. That's the subscription website that I have, where we have hundreds of people from all around the world working together on this stuff. So you're going to have questions about this. And that is the place to do that work with me, but most importantly, in a community with all these other folks. And by the way, I want to let you know, on December 5th, 2019, I'm going up to Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I'm going to be playing at the Rex with a ridiculously great band, some of the finest players in Canada, Friday night at the Rex. The next day, I'm putting together a Digging Deeper workshop, and I would love for you to be there. So if you're somewhere in the Toronto area, in Ontario, and you want to make your way to Toronto for the weekend, let me know. Send an email to diggingdeeperjazz@gmail.com, and we can put you on the list for the Saturday, December 6th Digging Deeper workshop. It'd be a blast to see you there. Okay, so let's look at item number 2 on the sheet. Just a moment ago, we learned that the minor pentatonic is related to the major pentatonic scale. Well, it turns out the minor pentatonic scale is very closely related to the blues scale, another sound that many of you may know. So here's minor pentatonic again. And here's item number 2, the blues scale. It's the same notes with one additional note, a sharp 4 or a flat 5, if you like to think of it that way. So these are very closely related scales, but they really have their own flavor. So that would be if you don't have much of a palate developed, you may not know the difference between oregano and basil and galangal and whatever other spices are out there. But after a while, you begin to see like, wow, those are really actually entirely different. And I can see how we would use one here and use one here. So developing these scales is something really important. Now, here's what I've been working with folks on Jazzwire. I've heard this so many times. I've heard it on Jazzwire this week, and I've heard it from several hundred other students in the past. Yeah, I'm playing the minor pentatonic scale. I'm playing blah, 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 playing the scale. And it's just kind of boring. It's just those 5 notes, and I'm not sure what to do. I'm not sure what to do with it. And my answer is, that is true. I can hear that you don't know what to do with it. So yes, there's so much to be done with this scale, and we're not going to cover all those things right here in this video today. So I want you practicing this scale. I want you to do it in at least a couple, 2, 3, 4 different keys, because it's easy enough. At some point, you'll get to 12 keys. But how to make music with it, as I said, every culture in the world, every style of music, Stevie Wonder, Led Zeppelin, Duke Ellington, and on, they made incredible music with this scale. So if you think it's sort of boring or not enough there, or, that's kind of on you, right? So that's why we're doing this work together. And that's what we're going to be doing together at Jazzwire, is seeing what to really do with this scale and how to make it into some real music. What did Coltrane do with this? Coltrane did just fine limiting himself to these 5 notes and then moving those notes around sometimes. So here's what I want to do. I want to play you a quick clip from my most recent CD. It's a song I wrote called Flow, and I'm actually, when I turn off the camera, going to be writing a big band chart of it this evening. I got commissioned to do a chart for the University of Virginia and my friend John Dirth out there of this particular tune, so I'm really excited about that. So what I want to do is play a clip of the tune that is entirely the minor pentatonic scale. There is one place where I use that blues scale note. But it's really, I was thinking minor pentatonic when I wrote it. And you can see it's written in example 3 here. And if you try playing along, I kept the example in the key of C just to keep it consistent, so we were all looking in the key of C, the song happens to be in the key of E flat. So I'm playing E flat minor pentatonic. Check this out. All right, that's pretty happening, right? So, no, it's not Duke Ellington or Art Pepper, but, I grew up listening to some rock and roll too. So that's a fantastic band of mine called Hell of a Band. So now, this song. Let's look at item number 3 again, and we'll go back to the key of C for our example. And the little moments, what I did to make things interesting with this scale. So, of course, there's a rhythmic aspect. So you can see the 16th note aspect. So, yes, rhythm comes into play. Absolutely. So what I did is worked a lot with little groups of notes. The first measure is literally 3 notes, flat 7 to 1, flat 3 back to 1. I had a target note, the C, below target note, above target note. And I centered just with 3 notes. Then in the next measure, I moved on to a couple other notes. Started with 3 notes, then added a little bit more. I'm not running up and down the scale. That's not exactly how we do it. So I started with 2 notes, added 2 more, and then I continued up in the third measure. So when I get to the top, I was using the 5, 7, 5, 1. Those little groups. So now when I'm improvising with the minor pentatonic scale, when I'm soloing with the pentatonic scale, I'm thinking of these little areas of notes, often 2 or 3 notes, and working with those. Then I'll go on to a little area of 2 or 3 notes and move them around, as opposed to thinking here's 5 notes I'm going to sort of run up and down. So there are definitely some other patterns that we hear in what's going on here. And the pentatonic scale is fantastic for patterns, things like this. I was playing down 4 groups of notes, a group of 4, ba, 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 ba. I started it on the root and came down 4 notes in the scale. Then I went up to the second last note and came down 4. So I'm going up 3, coming down 4, going up 3, coming down 4. And why does it sound much hipper than that? The space in the scale, right? If you tried doing this with a major scale or a minor scale, it wouldn't sound remotely as good. So there's so much that can be done. And as you listen to this, you're going to start hearing the soundtrack of your life, whatever style of music you like listening to, you're going to start hearing it. And that song Flow that I wrote, that was a little, tip of the hat to Led Zeppelin, one of my favorite bands of all time, certainly. So I want you to be digging into this minor pentatonic sound. I want you to go back, watch the previous video on major pentatonic, and get this into your playing. Get this under your fingers where you don't have to be thinking about it. And I guarantee every single one of you at some point is going to be like, okay, I got the scale, I got my 5 notes, and I can wiggle around on them a little bit, and why am I bored? Yes, that's going to happen. That happens to most of us. And that is where you get a little assistance. That's when you need a little push to get going down the road. That's when you need some context for how to do this. And that's when you need some support from other people who are doing the same work. So that's why I keep bugging you guys about Jazzwire, is that's what goes on there. When you start getting bored with this, it's not because it's a boring scale, it's because you're being boring with it. So we can help you be less boring with this scale. And if you go to Jazzwire, use the code DiggingSpring. That'll get you 50% off the registration fee. So why not do that? So I definitely want to see you in Toronto. And yes, please write me. I think we have 15 spots for this Digging Deeper Jazz workshop on Saturday, December 6, 2019. So write me about that. And if you're interested in hanging out in person, I'm going to different places around the country, around the world. I'm going to be in Europe in summer of 2020. So let me know where you'd like me to come, and we can get something going in your neck of the woods. All right, thanks so much. Have a great time with the Minor Pentatonic Scale. Play some good music. See you next time.